Hello, my dear second PUC students. Welcome to chapter 13, Organisms and Populations, session 2. Well, in my previous class, I started with the topic and gave you introduction. We did not come across many important questions for your examination. And as I mentioned in my previous class, that I will be using PowerPoint and other images to explain you. As you know, in my previous year's class, I used to use the same board what you can see in my background, starting from this corner to that corner with color chalk piece and make you to draw the diagrams 2-3 times. But due to some visibility problem and clarity, I'm using this PowerPoint. But still, I try to make up as much as interesting and informative as possible. I expect everybody to have a book, a pen and a pencil when you are attending this offline session. And whenever you get doubt or when you miss some point, rewind and listen again. So let me share the screen first and start today's class. Yeah, to remind you, chapter 13, Organisms and Population. So this is the slide what I used in my previous class. This graph I explained how biomes are overlapped and how organisms are distributed in this respective biomes and even in the overlapped or coincided biomes. Yesterday I gave you a small, yesterday in the sense in my previous session, that is session 1, I gave you just an introduction about different abiotic factors that play a very important role in the distribution of organisms on the earth. And I also mentioned you might have come across many other physical factors or abiotic factors, but in our theory class we are going to study only 4 important abiotic factors which is mentioned in your textbook. And that 4 abiotic factors are temperature, water, light and soil. These are very important abiotic factors that are mentioned in your textbook, and it is an important question as well as in your examination. This one. So today's class we will study these abiotic factors in detail, right? So I'll move to the next slide and start today's session. So first we are going to study temperature. Dear students, as I have reminded you last year itself, a textbook is at least 1.5 decades old. And the information what I am going to display on your screen now may sound silly for you. And some points are not at all important from your examination point of view. And some of you may be wondering why these points are there. Well, apart from these textbook points, there are some important points on these abiotic factors, not only as a biology student, but as a common human, as a normal human, you have to know the importance of these abiotic factors. Got it? So we'll go through the importance of these 4 abiotic factors, starting up with temperature. So usually I ask the students in theory class, what are the importance or significance of temperature? So they start telling their own answers. It is used to heat the vessel. Many other examples I don't recall. I think in other abiotic factors I can remember. But dear students, you need to keep one thing in mind. Maybe you are not that good in English, but you need to know simple differences of words in English. Importance, significance, uses. Keep one thing in mind, we are not at all using any uses of temperature or any abiotic factors. We are studying these abiotic factors with respect to the ecology, right? So you need to know what is significance, what is important. Significance means meaningful in certain content and having a crucial value. Okay, so temperature, before highlighting the points, I just recall your last year's theory class in my animal kingdom. If you recall, not in animal kingdom, first I want to mention about biomolecules. The same thing you have also written in question number 4, I believe, in the assignments what you submitted. Temperature plays a very important role. And there was a question, what happens to the enzyme activity at high temperature? 99% of you have written the correct answer. The enzyme get denatured. See, that one point from last year, it's very much enough for us to tell the significance or importance of temperature. Temperature plays a very important role on enzymes. And where do we find enzymes? Inside living organisms. What are enzymes? If you recall, proteins acting as biocatalyst, right? So this is just a recap for you to remind what is the importance of this temperature. And if you recall my animal diversity, I spoke about poikilotherms and homeotherms. Do you remember? Right? Poikilotherms. Poikilo means the organisms whose temperature fluctuates, varies according to the varying ambient temperature. ಈಚ್ ಕಡೆ ಯಾವ ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್ ಇರ್ತದೋ ಅದೇ ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್ ಆರ್ಗಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಬಾಡಿನಲ್ಲೂ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. Poikilotherms. Homeotherms. Homeos means constant. Humans example 37 degree constant. Humans ಅಲ್ಲಿ the temperature does not fluctuate along with the fluctuating ambient temperature. Even though the temperature is 40 outside, our temperature of the body will be 37 degrees. So there is one more evidence that temperature has a very important role in living of organisms. And I also mentioned, if you take a temperature of a dead body of a human, the dead body of a human will be same temperature as that of the ambient temperature, the surrounding temperature. But if you take a living organism or living human's temperature, you see that will vary according to the ambient temperature or the surrounding temperature. So why am I speaking all this before speaking about this? Because all these points are not given in second PUC textbook now and may not be useful for your final examination, but may be useful for your CET or NEET or any other entrance examination. But you should not forget what is studied in first PUC, because you have to carry most of the information what you have studied. It's not like you have studied there and you're living in first PUC and coming and studying a new concept here. So what are the things I discussed now are very, very important, not as a biology student, but as a common person to know the importance of temperature. So now let's get into textbook information what is given regarding temperature. Okay, it's the most ecological relevant environmental factor. Yeah, as I said, we are going to study almost 4 important abiotic factors. All are important, but if you take, according to me, temperature is the most pervasive and important physical factor according to me also, because it actually alters the properties of water and even soil. If you take water, viscosity, fluidity, etc., and you can see if you see the global temperature rises, it can melt the polar ice caps into water, and vice versa. If the temperature falls, the water also get frozen into a solid form or the ice. And even if you take for plants, this temperature may plays one more important role, like providing light, and it also affects the intake of carbon dioxide, and it also alters air humidity, and affects also the transpiration in plants. And due to this temperature, uptake of water, nutrients, everything will be affected. But all these points what I am telling is not mentioned in the textbook. It doesn't mean you have to write down when I am explaining it now. No problem. We have to stick on to the textbook information. We'll stick on But I'm just speaking and I'm giving the extra information regarding temperature to know how significant the temperature is for living organisms. So temperature is the most ecological relevant environmental factor, yes. Average temperature on land varies seasonally. Yes, even in our city, if you take or whichever city you are staying, you can see seasonal variations of temperature will be there. Temperature decreases progressively from the equator towards the polar region and forms plains to the mountain tops. Okay, I'll tell that one in my next slide. Temperature ranges from sub-zero levels below zero in polar regions and at high altitudes up to more than 50 degree, and in tropical deserts also during the summer. There are unique habitats such as thermal springs. In my previous class, I have shown thermal springs where the natural water bodies are like hot water. I have shown you the picture in my last class. If you have missed out my previous class, go attend that first and then you can come. Okay, and even deep sea hydrothermal vents, it is at the bottom of the ocean where the temperature will be more, and in that crevices the water will be percolating and there will be temperature more than 100 degree. Believe me, below the ocean also the temperature will be more than like around 100 degree. Hydrothermal vents. The sixth point I want you to concentrate more now, because this is the linkage for our first PUC knowledge. Living organisms temperature affects the enzyme kinetics. That's what enzyme kinetics, that's what you wrote in your assignment. Temperature in living organisms, there is a particular temperature at which the body physiology will be working outstandingly. We call that temperature as optimum temperature. Hope you remember now. At optimum temperature, the body physiology will be working efficiently. If you take even enzymes also, they work efficiently at optimum temperature. So once these things work properly, the BMR, basic metabolic rate, metabolism, you know what is metabolism? The biological reactions happening in the body also will be going on a proper track. That's what we call it as physiological functions. So physiological functions normal ಆಗಿರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್ ಕೂಡ ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಇರಬೇಕು. ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಅಂತ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅದರದ್ದು ಆಪ್ಟಿಮಮ್ ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ನಮ್ಮ ಬಾಡಿ ನಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆಯೋ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಫಿಸಿಯಾಲಜಿಕಲ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ನಡೀತದೆ. ಓಕೆನಾ? ವಿಲ್ ಮೂವ್ ಟು ದಿ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್. ನೌ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಸ್, take a screenshot or write these points neatly in your biology notebook. Yeah, now to say this third point, if you recall, the temperature decreases progressively from the equator towards the pole. I just did a diagram. Now you can see a circle here. This circle, this one you can take it as a globe or earth. When I say immediately earth, now you know what I'm going to label this as. This we can call it as equator. Now what does this line shows? See this one. If you see this from the equator, two triangles you can see. Can you see here? Even below also. Now what I want to say in this schematic representation is, this region there will be more temperature, and also you will see more different types of organisms, more biodiversity you can see. As we move towards this polar region, you can see this triangle tapering towards the polar region. The temperature goes on falling, or temperature goes on decreasing as we move from equator towards the polar region. See here, from here also you can see, from here also if you move in this direction, the temperature goes on decreasing as we start moving from equator towards the polar region. That's what this third point says. Temperature decreases progressively from the equator towards the poles and from plains to the mountain tops. Got? I'll move to the next slide. Now, this is a very, very important point from the examination point of view. A definition, that's it. We are not going into the detail of this one. You need to concentrate on this one. What are eurythermal organisms? The word eury, thermal means, you know, it is temperature. Eury refers to broad range. Now we'll go with the definition. The organisms which can tolerate and thrive in a wide range, broad range of temperature fluctuation are called eurythermal organisms, and there are only few organisms on earth percentage wise. There are only few organisms on earth called means which are eurythermal organisms. I have got some examples. These examples are not from the textbook, I just took it. Now if you see examples for eurythermal organisms: goat, man, cat, dog, tiger, cow, sheep, monkey. See, till monkey, if you see, from goat to monkey, all are mammals, right? And green crab, that is a unique species that can survive in broad range. So these organisms can not only tolerate a wide range temperature to fluctuation na tadiyodalde badukbeku. They have to survive. That is the definition. Okay, so which can tolerate and thrive a wide range of temperature change are called as eurythermal organism. A very important definition. We'll take for example our humans only. You people might have heard about Siachen soldiers of India. There, once in a year, I believe the temperature will be minus 50 degree. Okay, and at the same time in the desert, the same soldiers, the same army people, there the temperature will be almost 45 to 50 degree. So that there minus 50 degree, here plus 50 degree. And if you see the difference, what is the difference now? The difference will be 100 degree almost. Humans are surviving there. The Indian army soldiers are surviving there. So that man can be considered as a eurythermal organism. So out of all the living organisms, only few organisms are eurythermal organisms. So this is a definition. You have to take the study material, or you can copy the same definition what is there on the screen at the end of this slide. Got it? So this is just a definition. We'll move on to the next point or the next definition. Once again, a very important definition from the examination point of view. Stenothermal organism. Stenothermal organisms. We'll try to know the meaning of this and then we'll get into the definition. The word steno refers to narrow. Above that only I have typed also. Narrow range. Same definition, modify a word. The organisms which can tolerate and thrive in a narrow range. There it was what? Wide range. Now here it is what? Narrow range. So these organisms cannot survive if there is a large fluctuation of the temperature. So organisms which can tolerate and thrive in a narrow range of temperature are called as stenothermal organisms. Most of the organisms, not only animals, plants. Okay, I collected some of the examples. Reptiles in the sense you can take snake, crocodile, alligator, different sized lizards. Crustaceans. Crustaceans means arthropods. Crab, prawn, lobsters. Insects, cockroach. Cockroach, not exactly cockroach, and mosquito, and any other insect, honeybee. Salmon fish, penguin, python is a reptile, crocodile is also a reptile. So now at this moment, this is a very important slide for today's class. Take a screenshot and you can write down the definition. Better than copying, memorize and then write it in your notebook neatly. I'll move to the next slide. So next important factor, abiotic factor, is water. Now once again, before getting into the points what is there in the textbook or 1.5 decade old textbook information, we'll ask ourselves, what is the importance of water, significance of water? Usually in the class I get, I'll make students to stand up and answer. They tell, sir, water is used for bathing, water is used for washing, it is used for irrigation, sir. It is used to construct a dam, sir. So that's why I said we are not discussing the uses. We are discussing the importance or significance of water. If you recall your first beginning biology classes, you may come across a word called as cell, structural and functional unit of organism. What will be there in the cell? Yeah, most of you will tell nucleus only. But have you come across protoplasm, cytoplasm or protoplasm? Proto, first. Protos means first. Plasm means liquid. Water is the most important element in our body. Nearly 70% of our body is made up of water. Every cell is having 60 to 80% of water. You mention any physiological process in our body, any physiological process in our body, water plays a very, very important role. In water medium only, breaking down of food molecules should happen. In water medium only, transport of gases should happen. Mention any. All physiological process requires water. A simple example, if you want to cook rice in your house, you cannot take a rice and put it in cooker and heat. It will not become cooked rice, boiled rice. Water should be there to boil the rice, right? So water is very, very necessary for all the living organisms, including plants also. Without water, plants cannot prepare oxygen. Plants cannot prepare their own food. So water is a very, very important abiotic factor that we should be knowing, and we should respect the water. We'll see what are the points given in our textbook. It is the most important factor influencing the life of organism. I mentioned you. Its availability is limited in deserts, as we know. Registan, ಮರಳು ಭೂಮಿಲೆಲ್ಲ ವಾಟರ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಒಂದೊಂದು ಕಡೆ ಪುಟ್ಟದಾಗಿರ್ತದೆ. We call it as oasis. So if the water is very much restricted in this desert, means the organisms which are surviving in deserts should have special morphological, physiological and behavioral adaptation to survive in that habitat, right? This point we are going to study in detail in coming classes. For right now, we are just reading and understanding what is this point about. The productivity and distribution of plants is also heavily dependent on water. Yeah, if you take a ground, or you might have observed near a house and somewhere, if there is a ground and if there is water there, we can see plants growing there, and if there is no water at all, there will be no emergence of plants. So the availability and distribution of water plays a major role in plant vegetation. And if there is plant vegetation, you can see like insects, arthropods, and animals also getting adjust to that habitat. For aquatic organisms, the quality means chemical composition, pH is very important. Yes, this in your school days you might have studied too much, that water pollution, industries leave chemicals into the water, and aquatic organisms will die. Even now also you can see in certain lakes in Mysore, Bangalore and all, at least once or twice in a year in newspaper we'll see the information like many fishes found dead and sailing in the lake. Why? Because industries and other commercial waste are let into water. So the water properties like chemical composition, pH is very important for the organisms inside the water, like plants and animals inside the water, to survive. The salt concentration. Why? Because we know that the river water fish cannot go and survive in marine water, and the marine water fish cannot come and survive in river water. That is the common information. This salt concentration word, okay, in biologically this word we use the word salinity. Salinity anta helidre salt concentration of the water. Adu for those particular organisms it shouldn't be too much nor too less. Okay, due to this based on this salt concentration also organisms change their habit. Means salt concentration forms a major basis for the distribution of animals which are dependent on water. It is less than 5% in inland waters. Inland waters means pond, lake, rivers, and 30 to 35% in sea waters, and more than 100% in some hypersaline lagoons. Hyper refers to too much, over. Hyper means excess, over. Hypersaline lagoons. Lagoons means it is a water body surrounded by a thin layer of land and then again water. I'll show you the photos here. This is a lagoon photo I took it. This is a water body. See, you can see it is surrounded by, I'll just use a different color so that see, this region is covered by a thin layer of ground and again it will be having water. So this type of structure is called as lagoon. Hypersaline lagoon means there will be excess more than 100% of salt concentration in these hypersaline lagoons. And now it is very important, like temperature. The organisms which are tolerant to wide range of salinity are called as euryhaline. Eury means once again broad range. Haline means salt concentration. Organisms kadu ಯಾವುದು ಬ್ರಾಡ್ ರೇಂಜ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಾಲ್ಟ್ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ನ ಟಾಲರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಬದುಕ್ತವೋ ಅವುಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವು ಯೂರಿಹ್ಯಾಲೈನ್ ಆರ್ಗಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಆರ್ಗಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ ಬೋತ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಅನಿಮಲ್. So same concept from the temperature definition what we studied here, but haline refers to salt concentration. So this is a very important definition. And the organisms which are tolerant to narrow range, once again stenohaline organisms. Steno means what? Narrow. Narrow range of salt concentration. Only definition is more than enough. Now this slide, now you can pause take a screenshot and write it in your notes. I'll move to the next slide. Now you can pause and take a screenshot and write it in your notes. This picture is not required. Okay, till now I have said you not to draw any of the diagram except my previous class. Except my previous class, this graph in session 1 I asked you to draw once neatly. Okay. Now we'll move on to the next abiotic factor, light. Light means what should come to your mind when we are speaking about abiotic factor? On earth, the only natural source of light is what? It is sunlight. The only source of energy also is light energy. Today, now you can see I'm speaking, my vocal energy. I'm moving my hand, my physical energy. The vehicles which are moving with the help of petrol, electricity, any energy you take, all energy are the converted forms of solar energy, sun energy or the light energy. So light, you know, the basic definition you have studied in your school. In presence of sunlight, plants prepare their own food, right? So light energy is very, very important. Due to that one single energy only, the entire energy on earth is prevailing. So we'll see what are the points that are mentioned in the textbook. Okay. It is a source of energy which is used by plants to produce food. Photosynthesis. Yes, I said. Plants prepare their own food during the presence of sunlight. See, if there is 1 month of darkness, almost 90% of the organisms will die. Daylight is very, very important. Daylight is very, very important. Now, if you see this second point, sorry, the first point, it is important for many animals because they plan their activities diurnal. Diurnal means animals which are active during daytime. And seasonal variations. If you see certain animals or birds, you can see morning they will be flying from their nest, they go eat, forage and come back by evening. So when sunlight, for example, if I ask you, I don't know what time you are watching this class, whether it is morning, noon or night. But if I close your eyes and keep you in a room, dark room for 2-3 days, and then if I bring you outside and without giving you any clock or watch or mobile, and if I ask you to tell what time it is, with your experience at least you can tell. For example, even though it is 1 o'clock, you may tell it is 11 o'clock or 4 o'clock or something. Or if it is night, 9 o'clock, you may tell 11 o'clock, or forget about that. I am sure that you will tell, sir, this is a day and this is a night. Right? So, photo period in the sense, daytime, most of the organisms plan their foraging activity, feeding activity. Not only animals, even we, if it early mornings or 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock means it is something like, not during this pandemic, in other days, okay, it is almost 8 o'clock, I have to get ready to school. And once at the evening, even if we do not ring the bell in college, and if you go on continuing the class, and if the daylight goes on diminishing, or if it goes on getting dark, you will come to know, even though you don't have a watch, you will come to know it is getting night and they are not sending. See, this is what, when humans only are planning a day, like day times like this, even the birds, animals also will plan their day activities based on the photo period. And even seasonal variations also will be there. If you take Mysore only, January and December days will not be same. January and April, May, summer days will not be similar. Daylight won't be similar. Sometimes we may be having longer days, sometimes we'll be having longer nights. Okay. So this will help most of the animals to plan their yearly activities as well as daily activities. And also you have come across like nocturnal word also. What is nocturnal? The organisms which are active during night. So some organisms active at morning, some organisms like owl, rat, etc., which are active during night times. So light helps them to plan that. So availability of light on land is closely linked with temperature. Yeah, I can call temperature and light as directly proportional. I'll go back to this diagram what I did. This one. Exactly like temperature from equator to polar regions as it goes on decreasing, even light also is the same thing. From this portion till there. Okay, so temperature and light are directly proportional to one another. So, the UV component of spectrum, so not all the sunlight which falls on earth is beneficial to human. Some rays like UV rays and all are very harmful for the living organisms, that we already have studied from your school days. So this is the importance of light, the abiotic factor. And the last abiotic factor is soil. Soil is very important. See, when they had been to moon, they were searching for water and they were happy there were traces of water. Why? Because the combination of soil and water will give birth to organisms. ಮಣ್ಣು ಮತ್ತೆ ನೀರು ಸೇರಿದ್ರೆ organisms ಗೆ ಜನ್ಮ ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ. There is an image on your screen now. You can see the combination of water and soil is giving birth to some seeds. They are germinating. You take a seed and keep it on a rock, it will not germinate. You keep it on a rock, you put water, it will not germinate. But you keep the same seed on water, soil, and put water or moist soil, you keep, the combination of soil and moisture will make the seed germinate. That's why in our country and most of the countries will call a country, the soil as mother. Kannadadalli Bhumi Tayi anta heltare. Okay? So coming on to the information what is there on the textbook. The nature and properties of soil dependent on the climate, weathering of process. Weathering means the thicker soil, thicker stone getting powdered into soil. Okay? Is very transported or sedimented, and how soil development occurs. See, due to this weathering process, soil is formed, and due to their thickness and varieties grain size, they get settled at different layer on the earth. That's what they mean. At different climate, due to the climatic process only, this weathering process will happen, and that will give rise to the formation of soil. Soil's different characters are there. Not all the soil can give birth to organisms, both plants and animals. If that was the case, desert is having too much of soil, sand, that would have given more number of birth to plants and animals. The physical and chemical properties of soil is very important. You can see in the second point, characteristics of soil such as soil composition, grain size, aggregation determines the percolation and water holding capacity. Percolation means neer iliyodu, penetration of water into the soil. Okay? And water holding capacity, you take a bucket of water and put it on sand, it will immediately percolate. But in Mysore and some other region, if you see, when there is a rain, the water won't be absorbed so easily. So the water holding capacity of soil is also very, very important for the growth of living organisms like plants. Okay. These characters along with parameters such as pH, water pH is also important. pH, if it is too much acidic, the plants will not survive. Okay. Topography means the thickness of soil in a given area. The thickness of soil in a given area, that also determines the growth of plant vegetation. So this in turn dictates the type of animals that can be supported. Yeah. Based on all these physical and chemical properties, this will determine the number of plant population and animals depending on that habitat. Understood? Similarly, the aquatic environment, the sediment characteristics often determine the type of benthic animals that can thrive there. Benthic animals means the one which are found at the bottom of pond and river. And the composition of soil, the quality of soil also makes very much important for them to survive or not. If it is mixed with the industry waste and instead of soil, if some waste particles or plastic covers are there, once again the animals cannot survive. So the quality of soil at the sediment will determine the survival and the population of benthic organisms. So dear students, these are the 4 important abiotic factors that we discussed today. At this moment, you can pause this and take a screenshot and write neatly in your notes. Hope you don't have any doubt, and we are going to stick on to only the information that is there in the textbook. Got it? So I have discussed many extra information that is just for your general knowledge. Hope, I believe you will do today's homework neatly, and once the college opens, I will be evaluating your biology written notes, and I can make out in how many days you have written, whether you have scribbled or written neatly. Use pencil, scale, etc. If possible, you can also use color pencil what you purchased last year. Signing off from today's class. Session 2, Organisms and Population, Chapter 13. Take care.